Taking you out live to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. On that plane right there is West Carrollton resident Jeffrey Fowle, returning home after 6 months in North Korea. A trip that started in April ended up being detained for nearly 6 months for leaving a Bible at a North Korean nightclub, and he is getting ready to touch down at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base after being released yesterday. That's a U.S. government plane right there that picked him up in the North Korean capital of Pyongyang yesterday. After a touchdown in Guam, he has now made the long trip back to the Miami Valley. We're going to be continuing to follow this story. And of course, any reaction from Fowle or the family, we will have it for you right here on 2 News. We're going to stay right here on this picture as we watch it come in. We're going to watch those wheels touch down. Will not be the first time that Fowle's been on American soil since leaving North Korea. As I mentioned, he was in Guam first on the way back, and now he is coming back again. This is coming to you from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and you're watching it with me here as those wheels touch down, the journey over. His itinerary that took him to North Korea went off without a hitch. He went there as part of a group. That's when the rest of the story started to unfold quite differently than what he imagined, I'm sure, as he spent 6 months detained there. 2 Americans have continued to remain detained there as they have been convicted of crimes and are at working hard labor at a work camp there. And he was due, Jeffrey Fowle himself was due to stand trial here shortly on charges that violated tourism laws there, tourism laws that do not allow any free or personal expression of religion or faith. That had him detained inside of a hotel, of which CNN was able to get an interview with him last month. But that ordeal is over. The latest chapter for the West Carrollton resident is home. Rob Sneed is live outside of Jeffrey Fowle's home in West Carrollton. We've been watching that situation as we saw what appeared to, what we're guessing may have been family leave about a half hour ago, ostensibly heading out here to meet Fowle himself. Fowle works for the city of Moraine. Interestingly enough, it's been within the last month that they released him from that job after all the time he had accrued to take off from work had expired. The mayor of Moraine is expected to speak later today on that issue. But this is very much not just the top story in the Miami Valley today, but this is going to be headlines from sea to shining sea in the USA today, as Jeffrey Fowle had been held in North Korea for those 6 months, now is home. We're going to continue to follow this story all day long. And of course, you could follow the story as well online at WDTN.com. Now, we're going to stick on this shot for a little while longer. Let's see if maybe we can see this plane come to a stop. We might be able to get our first pictures of Fowle as he gets off the plane there, probably here in the next few minutes. Going over the timeline of the events that took place, it was in April 29th of this year, which Fowle and his group then went over to North Korea. And it was shortly thereafter, in early May, that he was arrested and detained for leaving a Bible in a nightclub, which again is a violation of the law there. While the government does maintain a couple of state-run churches in that country, it is a strict violation to display any personal and private expressions of faith or religion in public. Hence, Fowle was charged for violating tourism laws. That charge came in September. It was also in September that the city of Moraine terminated Fowle's employment. In September, Fowle was awaiting trial in North Korea for his alleged actions, which are inconsistent with the tourism laws there. And then it was just yesterday that he was released from North Korea in Pyongyang, which in and of itself is quite historic, given you can't even call it a frosty relationship between the U.S. government and North Korean government officials. There is zero relations whatsoever between the two countries. We are, from what we understand, it was the Swedish delegation that helped broker this release. We do have some American officials who are in touch with those Swedish officials who have an embassy there in Pyongyang, but as we understand it, it was Sweden who was the intermediary, if you'd like to use that term, in brokering this release. But nonetheless, historic, as a U.S. government plane was on the ground in North Korea yesterday to pick up Jeffrey Fowle. No doubt a lot of security had to go into play in that right there. It was a secret mission. Matter of fact, news services, it appears, were tipped off to the release while it was taking place, but were asked to not release the information about Fowle being released until that plane touched down on American soil in Guam. A very sensitive relationship, a very sensitive story, no question about that. That American plane is coming to a stop, it looks like, there at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which we have been there throughout the morning, as well as outside of Fowle's home. We're hoping to get the first look of Jeffrey Fowle for nearly a month. It was back in September that CNN was granted last minute and very unusual access to Fowle, as well as 2 other American detainees in North Korea, for a brief, and that's putting it gently, a very brief interview that we were bringing you part of last month. CNN was able to get that interview. As you see the door right there of the plane as it has come to a stop, the door is now opening up, and we are hoping to get our first glimpse of Jeffrey Fowle since that CNN interview a month ago, which he looked healthy. He said he was fine. Obviously, he was itching to come home, but quite anxious that he might not be allowed to come home. Worried at that time that he was going to be destined for the fate that was the same as the 2 other Americans who were held captive there, who had been sentenced to hard labor in one of those camps in North Korea. But Jeffrey Fowle didn't even have to stand trial, as he was released before that. He had been charged, but not then bound over to court, and did not appear in court, as we see people now coming out. That is not Jeffrey Fowle there. And as we get our first shots here, we are hoping to see Jeffrey Fowle coming out here in just a few moments. Again, that is a government aircraft right there. No doubt, as we heard from a Cedarville University International Studies professor just a few short minutes ago, we heard from him saying that no doubt the CIA and many government officials are going to be quite interested in what he saw while he was in North Korea, and he may have seen things that he had no idea exactly what he was seeing. So there will no doubt be many questions of him as to what he saw, and perhaps some sensitive information that he might otherwise be able to give to government officials. But right now, that is the furthest thing from the minds of friends and family who have been anxiously awaiting this moment for nearly 6 months. As he will come off that plane here, we're hoping in the next few minutes there, and as we continue to watch here. These pictures are coming to you live from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as we continue live coverage here on 2 News Today. Good Wednesday morning to you. I'm John Seibel. Jeffrey Fowle, after 6 months in North Korea, is back in the U.S. for the very first time. Went over there as a part of a group on April 29th, and then 6 months later, much later than he had previously planned, he finally returns to the Miami Valley, and this has all taken place at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where the media has gathered there for nearly 2 hours, anxiously awaiting this plane's arrival as it touched down just a few moments ago in what is history in and of itself, as a U.S. government plane was on the ground in the North Korean capital, which is a very secret country, and relations do not exist between the 2 countries. So other countries had to step in to broker this release of Jeffrey Fowle. And as we see more people coming off the plane there, I believe that is Jeffrey Fowle right there. From a distance, it looks like him. The glasses, the haircut, it sure does resemble him. That is Jeffrey Fowle right there, and he is home. And you can only imagine what is going through their minds right now. We'll just let those pictures speak for themselves right there, as Jeffrey Fowle now back on U.S. soil, as he just walked out of that airplane there at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Family greeting him. My guess, that is family that greeted him there just off The ladder, the steps as he got off that U.S. government airplane after 6 months being held away from his country, away from his family, as that family only hoped and prayed that they would have this moment. They feared that he was going to be convicted of that crime of leaving a Bible in a nightclub and sentenced to hard labor at a work camp. He was set to stand trial for that charge shortly, but before he even went to trial for that crime, he was released. And this all happened quick. We had no word, no inkling that this was even in the works. This was all kept hush-hush, very much under the table. Apparently the Swedish consulate there in North Korea, in Pyongyang, working on behalf of the U.S. to broker some sort of a deal. And we got word overnight that not only was a deal being worked on, but the deal had been done, and that he was on the way back home. And that is a long flight from North Korea to Guam and now back here to the Miami Valley, where he is now walking the tarmac, his feet firmly on U.S. soil after being away for 6 months. Now, we're hoping to hear some comments from Fowle. We have no word whether he is going to have a news conference or speak at all about this. Last check, there was not a news conference scheduled, but you would certainly think that there would be some kind of comments from him at some point this afternoon. We do know this, that the mayor of Moraine is scheduled to speak later today. Last week, or last month rather, the city terminated the employment of Jeffrey Fowle, who works for the city, but I have this feeling we're going to get more clarification on that situation when the mayor of Moraine speaks later this afternoon. We're going to continue to have more coverage of this, and if Jeffrey Fowle speaks, we're going to bring it to you right here on 2 News Today. Stay with us. You're watching 2 News Today. This is our top story. This is breaking news right now, taking place at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as Jeffrey Fowle has just landed and has just walked down those steps from that U.S. government airplane, his long flight back from Pyongyang, North Korea, where he was held detained there for the last 6 months for violating tourism laws there by leaving a Bible at a North Korean nightclub. He landed, as I look at the clock, at 6:55, roughly 15 minutes ago, and we watched a very emotional reunion with his family there at the bottom of those steps. That's a moment that they have been waiting for 6 months. For more on this coverage, let's bring in Rob Sneed, who joins us live. He's right outside his house.
Well, John, it certainly was an emotional reunion of sorts. I mean, you could only imagine what that family has been going through within the last 6 months. And to finally be able to wrap their arms around Fowle and be able to embrace him, I'm sure meant more than anything to that family. And as you did mention, we are just a few feet away from his home right now this morning. We've been out here all morning covering this story. As you did mention, he is now back here in the Miami Valley at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where he just touched down moments ago. Now, the exact details surrounding Fowle's return isn't being released for privacy reasons, but his attorney did tell us that the family is overwhelmed with excitement. You can certainly see that within the reunion we just showed you. Now, Korean officials took the 56-year-old West Carrollton resident into custody after he left a Bible at a nightclub. The family held out on hope despite 2 other Americans who were convicted of crimes in North Korea.
And taking a final look at traffic out there, things have been pretty well on the interstates. A little slow earlier there on 70 through the construction zone there near Airport Access Road. Right now, things are looking good. Here's a live look at the interstates. This is southern Montgomery County, 75 by 725. Heavy traffic here. Once you do reach downtown Dayton, give yourself a couple extra minutes if you're driving between UD Arena and Route 4.
Great news, improving weather. Yes. Eventually, right?
Eventually, yes. Okay. We are going to start off with some cloudy skies through much of the morning hours, but then a few peaks of sun later this afternoon. Still going to be a breezy and cool day today with highs near 55. Tonight, temperatures dropping down to 36 degrees under clear skies. Frost will be likely, but tomorrow highs near 58 degrees. So next couple of days, we slowly add on a few more degrees to our high temperature. Friday, a weak system moves in, partly cloudy skies, just a slight chance for a light shower, and then pretty good heading into the weekend.
You know, we're going to take that because the weekdays over the past week and a half, what was the word you used yesterday?
Dreary.
They've been that. I'd like to thank you for watching. Our continuing coverage of Jeffrey Fowle returning to the U.S. is going to continue as we move over on 2 News Today to Dayton CW. WDTN.com for the latest of all the headlines and, of course, your Storm Team 2 forecast. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning as well. Have a great Wednesday.